What was that? What? What's that sound? Where? It's aliens and they're living in your town. Damn. They have arrived. What? They're all around. So many aliens living in your town. Are you scared of aliens?
Hello, weirdos out there in Weirdo Land. It is the Weird Whatever podcast, and we are back for a second week. And happy Leap Day, year, whatever it's called.
It's a leap day, yeah, random, right? The 29th. It's weird writing that date.
This is the year I'm going to take a leap on love, I think, because it's leap year.
Uh-oh, we already start off into love right off the bat. Well, let me get through National Toast Day first. Happy National Toast Day.
Like toasting drinks or bread?
I believe it's bread. Oh. Although now you got me second guessing it. Shit. I always go right to bread, and it might be National Toast Day. You know what? To Beckett and to love.
Cheers.
Cheers.
It makes more sense like toasting to a party or
You're
something.
You're right. Look, we're bread people over here. And happy Rare Disease Day. Not as fun as the Toast Day.
Okay.
Not as fun, but those are our special days today.
Wow.
I hope you guys are doing well. Thank you to everybody in the chat room for joining us. I hope you guys want to get weird tonight. Now, Vicky, let's jump right into Ask Vicky.
Okay.
I got a few questions about this. And one was directed to you, but a few more people were just asking this. What makes Vicky or anybody qualified to be a ghost hunter, a ghost paranormal investigator, or even a psychic?
Okay, going with the paranormal investigator, I started off on a team. I have read, I have researched, I've done controlled experiments in people's homes. I've gathered evidence according to the guidelines of what everyone else was doing at the time. I veered off a little bit. A lot of people use a lot of equipment. To me, the only thing that I really need is a recorder because most likely the spirits are going to talk to me. But I have the same qualifications as I would if I were, let's say I were an expert on Prince, which I am. Years of research, years of listening to his music, years of that. Is there a certificate you can get? No.
Oh, you can't go to Ghost University?
You can't go to Ghost University. I'm sorry. I'm sure somebody will make it up. Now, you can go online and get a certificate to be a demonologist. That you can go to a school. You can go online to get a certificate to be able to do blessings and cleansings and things like that. As far as being a psychic medium, if you want to submit yourself to a university, there are universities that will put you through a series of tests that will certify you as a psychic medium. To me, would I do it? Maybe. The reason I do it is to help people. So if someone comes to me for a reading and they need something, we get to the bottom of it and they feel better after it. I consider a lot of my readings like a counseling session almost. And yes, I have a minor in psychology, so that's not something that I'm not ignorant in that. I do have a background in that. But you're talking about an area where there's no one who's really stuck their neck out there to say, okay, I am going to teach a course in paranormal investigating. I'm going to teach a course in, do ghosts exist and things like that. It's just not out there.
Someone like myself, you've said, Bird, you tend to have some kind of psychic abilities, but it's raw. Let's say you're someone like me that feels like they got some ability. You want to practice it. You want to get better. You want to go to that next level, as they say in the psychic business. Mm-hmm. What do you do? Is there a practice thing? 'Cause I get this question a lot going, I feel like I've got ability. I don't know what to do with it. I don't know how to practice it. How do I really become a legit psychic?
And that's the key word, practice. And I'll give you an example. My daughter has ability like I do, but she wants to go more in the area of tarot. Okay, so what is she doing? She's giving free tarot readings for anyone who wants to participate. When I started, I didn't realize that what I had was a real ability. I thought it was a fluke. I'm like, that's really weird. How did I know that? So I spent an entire summer doing 5-6 readings a week with people I didn't know. I didn't even know their name. I had Bobby Joe,
Bobby Joe.
Bobby Joe.
I'll see if you remember to do the shout out.
Yes.
I had Bobby Joe secure the people. A lot of them were out of state. She would just say, hey, someone's calling you at 6. I didn't know their name, anything like that. So I just practiced.
And Bobby Joe's your friend.
Yes.
In case no one knows who.
Someone's first day on the podcast.
Yes. Okay. Well, that's Becky. You hear words like demonology and psychic abilities.
Bobby Joe.
Bobby Joe. Thoughts, ideas, opinions.
I think there should be a school or like something. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be like, hey, these are certified, whatever, but at least like some kind of development, you know,
I
for
think
people to explore.
In Ghostbusters 1, isn't that they're college students that do test for psychic abilities?
Yeah, they're college professors who are trying to denote whether people really do have psychic ability.
So they do have classes and stuff that people
Yeah.
can participate in.
Let's say you're Glenda from Port St. Lucie, got this ability, doesn't know
witch.
what to do with it. What can she do tonight after the podcast? Does she just start giving out free readings? Because the naysayer's going to go like this. Yeah, it's great. You're giving out free readings, but you could just be making shit up. Is there a mark where you can grade yourself to know you are going in the right direction? Because anyone can say they're a psychic. And hey, Beckett's going to be sad next Thursday. Anyone can make predictions. How do you grade yourself?
Well, I would probably, if I were that person and I were interested, I would look. There's a lot of psychic mediums, a lot of people like myself that are open to mentoring people and to help them and to guide them to see what their area, what might be my ability may not be Glenda's. She may have another area of specialty that she needs to focus on. And I've always been, I'll do readings and I'll see that the person has ability. And I'll be like, wow, do you know that you're blah, blah, blah? And I remember this one, she's one of my regular customers. And the very first time I had a reading, I told her, I said, you realize you're an empath, right? And it was so eye-opening. She said, my whole life, everybody just called me a crybaby. Everybody just thought I was too sensitive. Everybody told me to grow up and stop crying all the time. She was crying, and because she was picking up on other people's emotions. And just identifying that has literally been life-changing for her.
That's a real thing. I think like 1 out of 5 people, they have a, I'm kind of throwing a Virginia stat out there, but there's a section of people who really do have they're born kind of oversensitive. They are very sensitive to just everything. It's
There's some, but they've just been labeled. Some of those people that were just labeled as sensitive might be empaths.
What's the difference between a crybaby bitch and somebody that's an empath that has ability? Because someone's gonna say you could just be a crybaby,
Bitch
or
boy Beckett.
bitch boy Beckett, or ability Beckett. How do you know the difference?
Yeah, I mean the person themselves. There's a criteria that I always, and you can even go online and see. There's any site that you go to and say, what are the characteristics of an empath? And it will list all these things, characteristics that you might have. And if you have those, you might be an empath.
A lot of great literature, a lot of great free videos too on YouTube about empaths and quizzes you can take. But they have a quiz for pretty much everything. Do you think you might be a closet serial killer and that hasn't struck yet? Take this test. There's so many things to.
Yeah.
Which soprano are you?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe I should work on my abilities. I definitely am an empath. I mean, it's part of the reason I'm veg. Like, I'll step over an ant on the sidewalk. I still sleep with the pillow I was born with. In past relationships, I get accused of being the girl in the relationship.
You are the crybaby bitch?
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Is that a surprise?
But again, whoever, I understand people question it, but the way I've always thought of it is that the people that are supposed to find me are going to find me. The people that want to get help through me will find me, and they will get that help. I'm not out to prove to anyone that I really am a psychic medium. I'm not out to prove that I have, been investigating since 2007 and I have thousands of EVPs and documentation. I don't care. I care about the client that came to me because they were scared. And now the client did not put their house into foreclosure. And they stayed there because I came and helped.
Oh, I'm still getting email. I'll get random emails from people saying me and you faked the ghost video that got us on the TV show. This one guy, he's nuts. He said that it was Chewy. Chewy, who never was upstairs ever. Old dog.
That person, if he would like to sit through hours of video, I have the camera on Chewy downstairs the entire night. In fact, I have video of you going downstairs like at 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 or 3 o'clock, going to your refrigerator, grabbing Coke, juggling down some Coke, and then taking Chewy outside for a few minutes.
Yeah.
And you can see Chewy's downstairs the whole time.
It's kind of like someone, they say when people want to get clean, they go to rehab. Like, you can't force someone to go. They have to be open to it. Like, so if you're working with someone, they have to be open-minded to it, right? To receive it, I think, right? Yeah.
Oh, I think being open-minded to anything is probably the key. I mean, you don't want to obviously be gullible to every little thing. I think there's the fine line with everything. There's something in the middle that is more realistic than that. That's why I always try to ask you, Vicky. What are the one question? The next question is, what kind of situations have you gotten into where someone hasn't believed you? Have you ever gotten into that where someone calls you out going, you fraud?
No one's
That's
ever.
good.
There was one, I talked about it on the podcast one time. There was a woman who I believe she was in denial, but everything I said, she was very angry and very hostile towards me. And I got really quiet and I said, you know what? I'm going to return your money because you're looking for a trance medium. Because you're not going to be satisfied unless your brother's voice comes out of my mouth. So you're looking for a trance medium. Good luck. Here's your money back. I'm not, again, that's not, my focus is to help people who actually legitimately want the help.
Yeah.
And I'm not out to prove anything to anybody.
I think it's good though that it's always going to be skepticism. You should always never believe everything someone says.
And my team
completely.
always has a skeptic. I always have someone on my team who is a skeptic.
I think Denny's has become our skeptic.
I might be more open-minded than Denny's at this point.
We turned you like episode 2.
We did. You were
That's because of empath.
You were easy, baby. A couple drinks and then you were on our team.
It's a cheap date. Cheap date.
You are a cheap.
A little JMO. I'm like, let's go.
It's all it took. It's all it took. How do you protect yourself, Vicky, from all your investigations emotionally when it comes to, because you're helping people and sometimes you might be with a bad son of a bitch when it comes to the spirit world. Does it take something out of you?
No, I've been doing it long enough and I have my own protection in place. And when I say protection in place, I just have bodyguards on the other side who know when people are supposed to interact with me and when they're not. If something negative comes towards me, I do what I would if it were a negative person. Back up. And I've been in situations where they have attacked team members and I've had to go and tell the spirit to back up and get away from us. As far as protection, I have a routine that I've done for every investigation since I started. I will not even touch my doorknob in my house until I say, because I do have a religious base, and I say this house is protected by the blood of Jesus Christ and you're not allowed in here. And then I take and I make a cross on my door and then I touch the doorknob and go in. Whether that's really what's keeping it away, knock wood, I've never brought anything home. And there's never been any interaction from anything that I felt came from an investigation. Some of my team members, they feel better, they will sage themselves before they get in the car. There's been times where we've had pretty nasty interactions and we went ahead and made sure everybody was saged before they got in their car.
Have you and your psychic friends ever thought about getting a band together and calling it Sage Against the Machine?
Well, now.
That's a great name.
Thanks, Becky. Well, Vicky, great job as always. Very, very good stuff. If you've got a question for our awesome Vicky, please send it to one of the emails. You guys got them, but you can always send it to the Jason KVJ Instagram. Denny's, you're awfully quiet over there.
Just absorbing it all.
Well, let's turn the tables so quickly on you. Here we go. Because of the moon stuff last week, someone wants to know, does Denny's still, because I'm a huge fan of the podcast, just wondered if Denny's thought about the moon landing at all last week. Did he think it was fake? Does he still think moon landings are staged? Norm from Alabama wants to know.
The most recent one, did that have crew on it?
Oh, it's my segment.
Oh, is it part of the so go ahead. Both of you
No,
can
go ahead.
No,
No, there was no crew on it.
I didn't think there was a crew on it, so I mean it's kind of a different situation.
But I guess what he's asking, do you think that they're faking that as well? Are they just sending things in quotes?
Modern era, I think we could send stuff to the moon for sure, especially unmanned vessels. I mean, they send stuff out into space all the time for a long time.
But we invented nuclear weapons way before we landed on the moon.
For sure.
Talk about a bomb, Becca. Just
Well, I'm just saying, like, what's that have to do with?
Oh,
I guess it's more so that.
we were splitting atoms.
oh man, Denny's and Beckett fight.
No,
fight,
I'm
fight.
just saying.
I think he's too into that Red Hot Chili Pepper song.
What song is that?
Space might be the final frontier, but it's made in the Hollywood basement. Californication.
So, I mean, there's always the Stanley Kubrick. They shot it in the studio and stuff. I don't know. It's always been one that I've thought about because the incentive was there. Modern day incentive, like we haven't even done anything in space in a long time. So sending something up here, I mean, I would believe that they did that for sure. But back then, there was things on the line. You had the race to space. You had a lot of nationalism. I mean, it was just a different time frame. So to stage something like that, just to buy yourself time or anything, could be a plausible thing.
Are you saying right now you still think that we've never been to the moon? Because they stopped the space program, I think, in 73 or
Like,
whatever.
Right after, yeah.
It wasn't very long. It was 69 was
wasn't.
when we landed.
And the 90s kind of rekindled a little bit with sending out, satellites. And I think they had another space station.
We were sending people out to space a lot for about a half a decade.
It was
and
a
then,
huge focus.
And then all of a sudden...
It did drop off. I mean, there is just a lot of things to be skeptical of. I mean, people are skeptical of way less these days.
This is going to be our internet clip. Denny's, do you think we faked and staged the moon landing in 1969?
I still think it's totally plausible we could have done
So
it.
there's a big difference between being skeptical and saying it didn't happen.
That's what I'm trying to get. Are you skeptical or are you flat out saying we did not land?
I'm very skeptical.
very skeptical.
Yeah, it's just such an odd, there's just a lot of odd things surrounding that. I mean, same with the Kennedy assassination. That's just another one that is just layered in odd things. And that breeds skepticism.
Totally does. But I would say that the odd things also make it in some ways more plausible because it gives more motivation, more money, more resources, everything to get it done.
They say we stopped going to the moon because it was too expensive.
Oh, it was super expensive.
Very expensive.
Of course.
And very unnecessary.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, what are we doing there?
Yeah.
You all sound like, I mean, you think we would know for sure what's going on? We would never know.
Well, so I think even in modern era, going there and what are we doing? We're still so young with technology. We have great technology, don't get me wrong, but if they want to talk about colonizing on Mars.
Yeah, but people could have said the same thing to Christopher Columbus. They'd be like,
You're
"Hey,
right.
like,
They're
what are
gonna
we
play
doing?
this
Like,
recording back
Italy's great,
on
like
Venus. They're gonna be like, listen to this dick face.
Yeah.
But
You don't think that there's a space station at all on the moon? You don't think there's zero chance of a space station on the moon?
it's hard to say, man. It's just tough to say. I find it.
There's no right answers here. There's no wrong answers either.
It's a tough one for me, man. It really is. The moon, and I know that gets a lot of hate, but that is a tough one.
Here's the thing: if it was all drones, I think it's easier to keep secret. Loose lips sink ships. The more
Absolutely.
people involved, maybe not in the first 5 years, maybe not in the first 10 years, but at some point, someone's gonna squeal.
You're
Someone's gonna
absolutely
pillow
correct.
talk someone. Someone's gonna be drunk at a bar somewhere. Someone's gonna tell someone's grandkid. It's gonna come out.
Look at Area 51. I mean,
Yeah.
the same type of thing. There's a lot. They say a lot happened there, but a lot has not happened there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I don't.
There's a lot of mystery around.
There is a lot of mystery. I'm just saying the military has come out recently with all of this stuff that has been on record for a long time.
Right.
And a lot of people, majority of the people, I would say, didn't really give a shit or didn't believe until it started becoming very mainstream. So I get what you're saying, but you can keep people quiet for a long time through intimidation, and there's a lot of military people who have come forward and said I was threatened. Not only was I threatened
There's gonna be a ton of threatening, especially back then.
back then. They're talking about with their life, not just with their job or reputation. The Men in Black is a legit thing
Absolutely.
for some people that they go, these guys would come up and say, you're not saying anything, you didn't see anything, we can make it very hard for you.
Right.
Now, whether that's true or not, I wasn't there, I don't know, but there's many reports on that.
Right.
So I'm with you because it did start to leak out.
Yeah.
It's out there now. People are talking about it, but it took a long time for it to get mainstream.
100%. Well, we have representatives in Congress, right? Like people elect them and they decide what they want to declassify or not declassify. So we made a choice, our founding fathers did, that we have representatives. They look at the stuff and they're like, this is sensitive. This shouldn't go out to the world, to the public, right? This shouldn't get democratized. Maybe it can't for the next 5 years, but it can in 20 years, right? And all the stuff they release just were questions, right? Which are valid questions. And then like Denny's point, which I agree with, that breeds skepticism because like you didn't tell us this for 20 years, but it wasn't like aliens walking around in Area 51. There was like things like, hey, like this is weird. This is unexplainable. Like whether it's something in the air moving differently, whatever, like it's still questions, right? But then people get pissed because they're like, we should know about this.
Yeah, I used to think that we should know about aliens, UFOs, and all that. And then something happened called the coronavirus, and I saw how people lost their fucking minds over toilet paper, and I didn't even need that much toilet paper.
Yeah.
It just, we didn't handle that. I just don't see everybody jiving with, and there's aliens and they've been here and they're hovering and they're also invisible at times. And
Aliens would rock everything.
it would rock everything.
It would change the entire planet.
Vicky, where are you at on the whole moon stuff? Stage? Because I know.
I never questioned it until I did this podcast. I never thought about it. I never questioned it. But as far as knowledge, it's very dangerous to give a little bit of knowledge to really dumb people.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is that a lot of things can't be released to the public because there's a whole segment of society that shouldn't have a little bit of information.
I think there's a segment of society. A lot of them are my family. Shouldn't even have social media.
It is crazy that every single person is allowed to just say whatever they want onto the internet at any point.
And I get it. It's all right. But I'm not kidding you, Becca. There are people in my family up in Rhode Island where I go, get them off the internet. Get them off of the internet.
Right.
I'll feel good about them being on the
I just say
internet.
there's a lot of things the government does that is sketchy, and it makes people question why would we even question it unless we detected something odd.
Well, if you're dating somebody and you catch them lying and cheating on you, all right, you might be able to forgive them. You might be able to move on, but that's always in your back of the head. Now, let's say they cheat on you twice. Well, fuck. Now we've got a situation here.
Fool me once, shame on me.
You can't trust them.
No.
Well, the government has lied to us more than twice. So it's kind of the same thing. As soon as you lie, and you lie multiple
Just
times,
opens the door.
oh, but now you're telling the truth. It just makes it does make you question things.
Yeah.
Even when there's nothing to question.
Yeah, 100%.
So with the, you'll see in the comments, a lot of times people will bring up with the moon stuff, they always bring up the flat earth stuff, right? But what's the motivation behind that? The only people who benefits, who makes money from the earth being flat?
No one.
So why would that even be a thing? There's no thing to gain from that.
See, that's where I
The
disagree.
globe companies.
Well, I think people can monetize. There is a movement of flat earthers, and if you get an audience, then you monetize your audience. You can make money on being a flat earther.
So you can make, so I mean, there's also, just trolls on the internet that are trying to make things, so you just never know what's real.
Some people just like
I just look for
going
motivation.
against conventional wisdom.
That's the other thing too. You never know who is just there to
Watch the
See
world.
the world
Disagree just
burn.
to disagree, just to cause a stir.
Some
Well-
people just do that.
And Denny's isn't wrong. Like one of the most beautiful things of the scientific process, which is the best process we know for learning things and testing things, is to question things. And
It starts with a question.
There's
It
nothing.
does.
There's nothing wrong with questioning things. It's actually a beautiful thing.
That's why we started off the segment with just talking about Vicky, and it was really more of not questioning you, but just psychics in general. What just questioning it. How do you get involved? How do you get better? Because I'm with you guys. I think you should question everything, especially today where.
AI and deep fakes.
Well, Denny's is you just said it a couple of minutes ago. You don't know what someone's motive is.
Yes.
So if someone's on social media, you don't know if they're telling you the truth. If they got all these shares and likes and all, that is in a sense the modern day currency for some
Credibility,
people.
yeah.
Exactly.
They'll have likes and shares.
But it always
what
doesn't.
does that mean?
It doesn't always equate the same thing. Just because I make money selling Denny's a house doesn't mean it's not the perfect house for Denny's that I found for him, right? Like so, Denny's could be like, well, Beckett, he's gonna make this commission on selling a house, so like maybe it's not the best house for me. And I'm like, well, both things can be true at the same time, right? Like the United States could have a ton of motivation and a ton of resources and money and risk people's lives to get to the moon. That all can be true, but it also could be true that they went to the moon. But it's still good to question it.
Well, what if, and just I'm throwing out a complete fictional scenario, they sent people to the moon, right? And then it circled around and no one lived. And they didn't want that out on the news. So they hired 3 actors to pretend that they were the people that went to the moon. Technically, the vessel went around the moon and came back,
Right.
but no one survived. To make the story slightly better,
Right.
that could be a lie. That could be something you could spread on the internet.
Well, when we've had people die in space accidents, it was well known, right?
Well, during launch, but if they were going around the moon and then back, where they
yeah.
lost the connection.
But we
I
have
think-
telescopes and, right?
I think what Denny's is saying, Beckett, is if they don't want you to know some shit, they're going to cover it up.
They're gonna try, especially back then when it's so important and maybe only 10 people know, maybe 15 people know, and they kill 5 of them. You know,
Right.
it could be any of the above.
Well, we kind of do live in a time right now where, and this isn't everybody, but I would say the media does this a lot, where you have to be either A or B. You either have to
Yeah,
be
it's one or the other.
all with this, but
Yeah.
you could have multiple thoughts about a topic or
Like
a
you
matter.
said, like you said earlier, the truth is always usually somewhere in between, and it's nuanced. People are like, you know, all this or no this. I'm like, no, what is it? Nuanced? It's like
Everything
all
is
kinds of
nuanced.
things.
Well, it's either A or B, A or B.
Yeah, yeah.
Fight. Division. I don't like division.
Yeah.
A
you
or
know?
B is easier to sell, and it's all about creating.
And it's also intellectually lazy, in
For
my
sure.
opinion. You know, it's easy to put it in this bucket or this bucket.
But it's easy, and it's also making a fuck ton of money.
Right.
Just to put A versus B, guy versus girl, Republican versus Democrat. I mean, the list goes on. Old versus young. No matter what it is, they're gonna find a way to cut it in half.
It's a protagonist and the villain, right?
It
Like
is.
there's always, you have Pepsi and Coke,
It's
you
easy
know,
to
you have Hulk
understand.
Hogan and the Undertaker. Like it's always like, you
It's
know.
easy to understand. It's easy to get caught up in and get
Easy.
tricked. And there's a lot of noise out there, Vicky. Thoughts on what we're saying?
Well, I'm a big person where I love when I get somebody that's very, very stuck in their A or the B category, and I always play devil's advocate. Because I always say, listen, if you think the world is black and white, you are sadly mistaken. There are multiple shades of gray. And I like for them to get out of their comfort zone, and I will always present something that's going to challenge the way they think to try to get them to think. Mm-hmm. That's what teachers are supposed to do. You don't need to necessarily recite Shakespeare. We want you to think about what that play meant. We want you to have ideas from it. So it's all about teaching is about thoughts. And that's why I try to push people who are, you know, black and white A and B people. Okay, well, how about this? And I'll throw a little wrench in their idea.
Curveball.
Yeah.
It
I
is
love
good
it.
to think of everything from every angle, or at least just consider. It does help, you know, with empathy and all that too. To know
It's how we grow and it's how society grows.
It really is. It's just it's hard, especially when they're throwing, you know, A and B at you.
Think how we just thought like 30, 40 years ago, women couldn't get credit cards at a certain point.
It-
You know,
it's-
it's crazy how we look back on it and we're like, what were we thinking?
and we're like, how could we be like
Yeah,
that?
exactly.
Well, it always comes back to the one Denny's random fact that he had. It's always stayed with me. I mean, bicycle face.
Bicycle face.
Bicycle face. If someone's new, can you rattle off bicycle face real quick for the good people?
So basically, bicycle face was a fake ailment that doctors came up with that they said afflicted women who rode bicycles because basically they didn't want women to have the freedom to transport themselves. So they made up this fake ailment that would make them look older if they rode bikes a lot because the wind on their face would make them age rapidly.
If that is real, that is the most That's so
you can
fucked
look it
up.
up. It's got its own
That is-
Wikipedia.
That is so fucked up. And that wasn't that long ago.
No.
No.
That's, I mean,
Crazy.
good gosh.
It's craziness. Yeah, no, there was a lot of that type of stuff too. It was whoever's in power. I mean,
Yeah.
you could even go back to the churches, Catholicism. They would sell
Oh,
pardons into heaven.
Has there been issues with some churches?
Well, you could pay money if you didn't feel like being a churchgoer. You could pay money to get into heaven, and you got it sanctioned. You know, so you went to the grave thinking you were going to heaven because you paid the fare.
What are your guys' thoughts on this? I was watching this documentary, and it was obviously about artifacts, ancient artifacts. There's an alien kind of a special, and the one guy's theory was we have been an advanced civilization probably 7 or 8 times over, but something happens to the globe, to the earth, and it wipes everything out, and then we restart it again. And the reason why you can't find other artifacts just because time has melted it away, or it carried it away. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
So we have the Dark Ages, right, where we lost a lot of wisdom, right? And wisdom is built upon other wisdom. And there's certainly gaps because, even with all the modern science we have today, we're like, how did they do the pyramids? How did they do Stonehenge? At that time, I guess we did it with AI and laser liners and the super summer solstice and all these other things.
Or option B, we didn't build it.
Right, that's true. So there's definitely gaps in society. I think as we become more globalized and connected and things get more memorialized, like in the World Wide Web and, in the cloud, I think it's harder to lose knowledge. But I think when you have Egypt or you have Easter Island and just a whole society gets wiped out, you lose the knowledge.
So you're saying that you don't think there's been technology this great in centuries or time periods before?
On Earth? No, never.
Never.
If you're talking about how they built the pyramids, maybe certain kind of things that they did or whatever, but AI and the metaverse and VR, no.
Vicky, do you push back on that theory, or do you agree with Beckett?
As far as what he's saying, I do agree with him, the AI and stuff like that. But, and I've stated this before, the pyramids and the building of them, we're so superior that we think, they couldn't have done it. It's probably just good old fashioned technology of their version, looking at the stars, using pulleys, using good hard labor.
And they found work records of the people
and they're
working
more
on it.
in tune with it. So we there was a time where probably people were genius at weaving baskets and doing stuff like that, and then we just lost that skill. I have friends that are builders on Palm Beach Island. They're artisans, and if they're doing this mansion on Palm Beach, they have a few workers that can do the amazing motif that's around the mantle, and they'll explain to me there's 3 people in the state that can now do that, where back in the late 1800s and early 1900s, that's just what people did, right? And because now you just have a machine come and you whatever, we've lost the
soul
skill and that ability to do those things.
It's
right?
actually a problem. People are losing skills over time.
Well, it's more of an atrophy. It's an atrophy of a skill.
But
right?
think, back then, they didn't have TV or radio or iPods. They had nothing. You had nothing to do. There was nothing to do. You sat around and you worked on the farm. You worked on your land.
Way more in tune with it.
You reproduced.
You got really good at things. You did reproduce a lot.
A lot.
But you had to, because there's famines and disease.
Mortality.
And if there was no food, you had to eat somebody.
Oh, I'm sure some horrific things have
come
happened,
on.
especially back in the day.
Old school. I bet you any money there was a lot of cannibalism that hasn't been reported, Beckett.
Probably.
I bet you cannibalism in some parts for a long time were probably accepted locally.
100%. I was a place in South America, and up to 30 years ago, they had cannibalism.
As you go to a restaurant and say, I'll take the fingers, and it really was fingers.
Yeah. No, it was a little village, and they had
You could
cannibalism.
you really could go to could you go to a little food area and ask for?
I don't know what they did back then. I don't
They
think
have
I don't
cafeterias
think
back
I don't
then.
think they had restaurants at this place. Just crazy.
If they're a cannibalistic society, they probably don't have restaurants and stuff, right?
I'm picturing a regular town like it's that Legacy place or something. There's a Fridays and an Outback, but it's for human.
Oh, that'd be crazy.
No, I don't think it goes down.
That'd be
like
a good Denny's random fact, because I don't think really any species eats their own species, right?
There was one chimpanzee that would eat the other chimpanzees to intimidate the chimpanzees that they were about to attack.
Oh
That
my
was the
gosh.
only case of real.
Snakes will eat other snakes.
Yeah, I've had a few hamsters. That's ate.
Oh, hamsters
they'll
eat
eat
their
their
young.
young.
Yeah.
What?
And
Yeah.
I'm not as a kid. I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't prepared for that.
Oh my
Fish
gosh.
will too.
They go
When they
all
have the
Zeus
babies, you
on
need
it.
to separate
Oh my
the
gosh.
fish.
Yeah.
It's dramatic.
What?
So we just blew your little.
Oh my god,
back
it's
there.
traumatic.
Yeah.
Well, at least it's rare. It's rare. It's rare.
And you know what's crazy? This octopus, female octopus, if a male octopus is trying to reproduce with them and they don't want it, they'll pretend like they're going to, oh, yeah, come here, get it, and then they'll kill them and they'll eat them.
Oh
yeah.
damn!
Wow.
That's gangster.
Pretty messed up, yes.
It's messed up that they're
Oh.
trying to force themselves on them.
Wait, isn't that what the Black Widow is infamous for doing? They will eat
they
their mate
after,
and then
they
eat
them
the male,
afterwards,
right?
Yeah, afterwards, yes.
A lot of stuff.
That's some
about
Silence of the Lamb stuff right there.
Silence of the Lambs. What are you,
Lambs.
Jodie Foster?
I know.
I just
So
wanted to be
many
quiet, Beckett.
I just want some fava beans. This is Chianti.
Lambs.
I just wanted the lamps to stop.
Well, I think with that said, I think it might be time for some
Denny's Random Facts.
Our sweet Denny's does a great job surfing the internet, finding great factoids. Vicky's our educator. If she loves his factoid, she gives him an A. She's been known to give him a D and an F.
So painful, too, when it happens.
Sweet Denny's, the floor is yours.
All right, so I kind of teased it on the videos prior to the podcast, but talking ravens with you guys. One cool thing they discovered recently, ravens are always aware when someone is watching them. They're already known for being clever, but they display what's called theory of mind. It's the ability for you to understand the beliefs, desires, emotions, intentions of something that is not of your own. So they're one of few animals that can do this, including dogs, cats, pigs, goats, and greater apes like chimpanzees are the only animals that possess that ability, so you can think outside of your own species. And they're often portrayed in pop culture. You'll see the raven can kind of see with its eye. It has that third eye they project. It's like kind of a motif, and it's because of the fact that they can conceptualize outside themselves.
Vicky, looking unimpressed per usual.
Well, the first thing I thought of was Edgar Allan Poe
Absolutely.
when you
the
said the
raven.
Raven. So that gave you a couple extra bonus points because
Oh.
it triggered that. It's still not great. Though.
Damn, I knew it. I could tell. I know that look. I know that look.
It's like
Quote the Vicky.
B- or a C+. It's really on the line.
You want to give him a C? Give him the C plus. Give it.
Okay,
You
C+.
can do it. You've had a
Peer
rough
pressure,
week.
C+.
It's only the second episode
You've
of the
had a
year.
rough week. I get it. So check this out. The very first alarm clock only had one setting, and it was 4 a.m. That was considered the universal time to wake up. And we just accepted that for 60 more years until they added the ability to set whatever time you want to wake up. But for 60 years, the alarm clock only had 4 a.m. And nobody gave a shit. They just like lived with it.
I don't know. I'm a little stunned. I'm gonna go with an A.
So random, right?
I'm kind of
Yeah.
stunned too. I kind of don't even get it. I love it.
It only had one setting to wake you up, 4 a.m. It would just go off at 4 a.m.
What a shitty product.
What a
Beckett.
stupid ass product. Yeah, it was 1787 they invented that.
1787. Wow.
And then 60 years later, the adjustable alarm clock.
Because they probably had to make like a gear, like a cog, and
Yeah, like we're talking about.
And they're like, we're not gonna make a bunch of different ones. This is like limited edition.
Where did gears come from then? Some guy had to sit there and chisel that.
Yeah, well, it's like watchmaking, right? Like, so they're like making like the little gears, but they had to probably wake up with the sunrise, work the farm, and 4 a.m. was reasonable back then.
Eat one of their neighbors because that's what they did back then, as we discussed earlier.
Cannibalism.
That's right. Bring it back.
Let's see. I guess I was just shocked at when we actually got toilet paper. But real quick, before we got toilet paper, America used corn husks. They would scoop it downward.
That sounds very hygienic.
But in 1857, a New Yorker decided I'm putting an end to this and created a fine paper, a medicated paper for the water closet. But yeah, it was 1857 that was created.
Would you rather wipe yourself with a corn or a leaf?
Corn husk. So so doing the research, I looked into what people used in that era. If you lived by the ocean, people would use seashells. It was very common.
Seashells?
Yes.
How is that?
Island fair people would use seashells.
Give
Yeah.
me the
horrible.
corn husk all day long.
So people in the forest and such would use sticks with leaves bundled around the end. So they kind of would dip it into water and then just scrub. But everybody had to share that bucket all day until somebody went to the well and
disgusting.
refilled it.
And then you wonder why people lived at the ripe age of
They
19.
died, yeah, 22.
Oh my gosh.
Horrible.
That is a great one.
They
I
would
don't,
bundle leaves on a stick.
Vicky, he's got us thinking.
Yeah, I gotta grudgingly give him an A for that, even though it was
Gross.
disgusting.
A for
Disgusting.
ass talk.
What do you think about this? And maybe you heard of this. I did not. The planet Pluto, which is no longer a planet, was named by an 11-year-old girl.
You don't like that, Denny's?
Well, no. I guess here's where I fall apart with it. How they got it to where it got named as Pluto. She was sitting at breakfast just with her mother and grandfather, and the newspaper article came out, New Planet X discovered. and they said it's small and cold. And she goes, they should name that Pluto, like the god, you know? He lives in the underworld. And the grandfather goes, yeah. So he writes a letter to the local astronomer, and that guy goes, yeah. And then he writes a letter to Oxford, and that guy goes, sure.
Everyone goes, yeah.
And they named it Pluto.
That's some bullshit.
How random is that, right? It took no effort from anyone. They just go, sure.
I don't know if I like that.
I was thinking of the Disney character.
Pluto, the dog, yeah.
Is Pluto weak, the character? Is he
No,
weak?
he's great.
Or
He's
you
one of
love
my
him?
favorite. I
It's
love the
weird
floppy
that-
ears.
It's just weird that I would put him more with Mickey and Minnie, but they put him with Goofy, who's also a dog. So it's kind of like you would be like if I was your dog.
Is Goofy a dog?
Yeah.
I would guess.
He-
right?
He's a dog, I think.
What else would he be?
Yeah.
A creature of
Like
sorts?
a cow?
No.
He kind of looks like half moose, half hippo.
No, he's just a big ugly dog.
I thought he was a big dog, but
Why the fuck does he talk and then Pluto does?
well,
That's some
that's my
bullshit.
point exactly. That would be like I was your dog and I barked at everyone.
Don't get me started, because I'm going after Peppa Pig or Peppa the Pig or whatever the fuck that thing is called. We're talking about her next.
Can I dovetail Denny's random fact and ask Vicky a question real quick?
Oh, you want to steamroll his?
Sorry.
The ball's on this.
I'll take 5. real quick.
Wow.
No, it's just real quick.
Take 5 in the middle of your segment.
Sorry.
Sure, Beckett.
Is that a faux pas?
The floor is yours.
No, I'm just curious because with Pluto not being a planet, I've heard that with astrology, it's messed up astrology. Because
Really?
Pluto was a planet, right? Have you heard that?
That's a
Right
good
at one
point.
point.
Now it's throwing astrology off.
All
because
through my youth, it was a planet.
Yeah, but it really shouldn't. I mean, whether you want to call it a planet or, a big enough body to have a name like Pluto, it doesn't matter. It still would have been a certain place in the solar system, so it really shouldn't affect any kind of
I see.
astrology readings.
Okay. I digress. Sorry.
Whether you call it-
We're just busting some balls, Beckett. There's no structure to this thing.
We're just winging it here. So one of the oldest recipes that they've discovered recently was, guess what? Beer. Just proving that humans have to get intoxicated. They found beer, a recipe that's actually very similar to the one we use currently, 3400 BC.
You guys like beer?
I love beer.
You love beer? You
Beer's
love
proof.
beer?
Beer's proof that God wants us to be happy.
It
That-
just really does kind of, because think about how fast we discovered alcohol. And then there's animals that discovered alcohol that also drink it and get inebriated.
Oh, dude, raccoons love to fucking party. They really do.
Horses love Guinness. Love Guinness. If a horse won't sweat, you give it a Guinness, it helps it sweat.
Oh, wow.
Wow. It shouldn't run though. You don't want to.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, who gets in trouble
That's
if
a
you're riding that
that's a
thing?
Dewey right there.
Yeah.
People get Deweys on horses.
That's true.
Can you break off your theory about alcohol and how there's a reason
My
why?
theory on alcohol and the reason we discovered it and the reason it exists on the planet is to keep humans reproducing. I think it is a fail-safe for species to reproduce.
Give us a scenario.
The reason I say that is because we've discovered it so early on, and humans are naturally attracted to for whatever reason, being outside your normal mind state. I mean, not all humans. A lot of people aren't, but people like to party they like to get outside their mind state, and it's been an available thing to do from so early on, and it causes you to lose your inhibitions.
It gets you
It's
horny.
a humongous effect of it.
It
So-
gets you horny.
It really does. So
As Beckett's guzzling down some J-Mo.
tell me
So horny.
He's so horny, guys.
I always just had a theory that it was the fail-safe, and even if two people hate each other,
Hate each other. They drink enough rum.
get a couple drinks in your belly.
Well, it's a WD.
you're
It's
singing.
a WD-40 of conversation. You know, even outside of the sexual thing, like I've had some of the most.
Don't look at me when you say that, Beckett.
I've had the best
wink.
best conversations with like buddies, like in a bottle of rum, like at 2:00 in the morning. Like
Go on.
it just drops like inhibitions and ego, and like you're more open with like stuff in your past
Finding
and whatever.
similarities.
Yeah, there's a reason why two guys like go and get in a highball and talking business and life, and like you just kind of open up a little bit.
We need the saxophone for the Weird Whatever podcast.
All right, I'll load
just
that
for
bad boy in.
I want to throw a wrench in that, though, because I know in certain time periods, the reason why they had ale or wine is because the water was so contaminated that
true.
they couldn't just drink water the way we drink water now. So when the process that they had to go through in order to make the beer and the wine and all that, it purified whatever
It
they were
killed
using.
any
Yeah.
of the-
So that they had to drink that in order to not get sick.
Well, I think that's why sailors have a reputation of being drunks because to Vicky's point, water had bacteria and that was scurvy, right? And scurvy.
Dysentery.
Yeah, so they would drink ginger beer. Ginger used to help with like seasickness and nausea and stuff like that. And they would have rum. And they would have rum because water has bacteria, right? And back then, like we were talking about, people used to die of crazy stuff.
Oh, geez, anything.
Yeah.
You could ride a horse, and the horse saddle could wear on your thigh.
Yeah,
and you
get
wouldn't
an
notice
infection
it,
and die.
And you would get an infection and die. You'd lose your leg.
Horny conversation definitely stopped.
That took a turn. Not so hot.
What else you got there, sweet Denny's? You're crushing it.
All right.
Oh,
let's see.
real quick, Vicky, what did you give him for the Pluto factoid?
Yeah, I mean, so far since after the first one that kind of tanked a little bit, and the second one, whatever. So
Quote the
we're
Raven.
A's. We're A's now. We're A's. He's in the A club right
You guys
now.
aren't raving about that first one.
Ah.
Or that joke.
I loved it.
All right. So this one, I mean, I think I've done facts similar to this, but a recent study has shown that your immune system is controlled by your emotions, meaning negative emotions can lead to staying sick longer. Positive emotions could be to healing. In fact, even as little as where you work, your relationship can all actually make you sick. So all about keeping your emotions high.
Oh, yeah, I've definitely been in some relationships that made me sick.
Basically, it's just keep those emotions high.
I'm trying, Denny. Right after this podcast, buddy.
Yes. Well, I'm going to get them real high after this podcast.
Vicky, what are your thoughts on this one?
Great. I mean, it's true. I totally believe in that. But it didn't. Like,
It's kind of 101. We all kind of knew that.
Another
Like,
C plus.
You guys are hurting my immune system at the moment. My emotions are getting low.
we kind of knew that in 7th grade. I got you, Vicky.
Yeah.
All right, give us one more. And on, like a medium
I mean,
note.
that was like 7 I've rattled off.
Okay, you know what? Hey,
I
you did a good job.
Even that last one was kind of just pulled out of the hat. Kind of a half one.
You did a great job. We're just busting your balls. Here's a email, getting back to the ghost stuff. Recently, I have been hearing the sound of a little girl laughing coming from within the walls of my house. What makes this even more perplexing is the fact that I don't live in an apartment complex. I reside on a large piece of property, ruling out any possibility of it being a neighbor or a neighbor's child. The laughter of this unseen girl typically occurs between 2 and 4 a.m. It happens at least twice a week, Beckett. As someone who is not usually a believer in the supernatural, I am struggling to explain what the fuck this is. I added that last part in there. Thoughts on what I should do? How do I make myself not feel crazy? I am starting to believe.
Well, the first thing I would do is try to eliminate any logical. So in that case, if you're way out by yourself, I would hire somebody just to check, have any kind of animal that might be nesting someplace. I mean, if it's happening at standard intervals, at a certain time of week, certain time of day, it's not likely to be an animal, but
He's staring at me at 5:58, and I'm like, "What are they staring at me for?" I'm like, "Oh my god, it's 5:58." I think animals can get on a routine in some ways, right?
So we're gonna chalk this up as laughing rats or laughing raccoons.
well, no, I'm saying before you go in and think that it's something else, just have somebody
Cross the other stuff
see if
off.
there's evidence of, droppings, or if there's holes where there shouldn't be holes and things like that. And that's your first avenue. And that's what a good investigator does, is try to find if there's a logical.
Well, I mean, laughing little girl in the wall, pretty horror. I'd put top
Yeah.
5, kind of
Creepy.
one of the horrifying, not horriest, was
One of the most horror activities out there.
no, horrifying thing. That may be a snarling of, I don't know, a demon
like
of sorts.
A demon snarling, little girl laughing.
Oh, we do have a demon email that I wanted to get to. I teased it today. Son of a bitch, did I not load it up? Give me 1 second here. Basically, what it was I didn't put it up here, but it was, and you can help out with this, Vicky. This person has started to see a ghost or a spirit in their house, but it's their mother that they're seeing. When this spirit is appearing, it looks like a demon version of their mother.
Okay.
It looks like a devil. What your typical? I mean, it was a pretty lengthy email, but it does appear to as their mother, but in a very gruesome form. Is that they want to know? Is that their mother? Is it possible it's not, and it's someone acting like it is, or could it really be the mom in some kind of?
Well, they say that a demon can pretend to be other people. However, the image will always be imperfect to some degree. Like, you're not going to have a perfect replica if it's a demon. I'm using my air quotes. You're not going to have a perfect image of the mother to begin with because they're not able to reproduce that. There's always something. They may have 4 fingers instead of 5. One of their eyes may look in the opposite direction or something.
I'm down with that.
But they say they
creepy.
can't produce a perfect image. If it is truly your mother, they would have the capability of appearing like themselves. So the bad news is it is probably something pretending to be someone else. The good news is demons and demonic presence are super, super rare.
I talked about that on the morning show. I thought I represented you well with how because I said something can look like a demon and it could appear as a demon, but there's a really good chance it's not a demon. There's just a lot of asshole ghosts out there that can be fuck faces. Sorry with the swearing. I go on these rants.
Or there's elementals that if you didn't know they were an elemental.
Have something where the thing scratched you, and I really do have a question about this.
But remember how she described the
You
scratch?
did. You described it as a claw, like scraping at your foot right as you walked in the door.
Right.
And this would have been near your foot. I'll be right back.
Okay.
That's really cool.
Take the reins because you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So we hung out for a little bit. We were talking. We were walking out the door. We were talking about the show. And we were talking about what you said. And we're standing right next to the front door. And as we're talking, we're like, I pointed it out. I was like, oh my gosh, remember what Vicky said? Isn't that wild? So it's Denny's art.
You walked right by a creature with a claw, and that's right where you would have gotten
Right by the door.
the feel.
Right by the carpet.
Here's my question. Could a ghost or a spirit somehow go into an item, manipulate it, and then, because this picture, if you're just listening to it on audio, it's a painting Denny's did of a reptilian creature from Star Wars. And
He's got claws.
He's got claws. So when Vicky walked in, she felt something snatch at her foot, and that would have been this claw. Can things like that come to life to do weird things like that, or is that just 80s movies?
It's if it were an elemental, they could say, well, I'm just gonna that sweet Denny's made with his own 2 hands is going to have some kind of haunted attachment to it.
But I guess what I'm saying is, could something
Take the form.
Yeah,
of-
could a picture scratch you because it's a picture of a creature with a claw?
It's not it wouldn't be the picture itself. It would be whatever decided to mimic.
So that's
the
that's
picture.
interesting. So it's almost like the spirit, the way I understand it, or the way I'm hearing it, it's almost like the spirit. It's kind of lazy, right? And sees something, and it chameleons or it mirrors something it sees.
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah,
Can it do that?
Yeah, it could, especially if it's a lot of these elementals, nature spirits, whatever you want to call them, they get more energy from you if you're scared. They get more of a reaction. They love it when people get scared, or they love it when they
It's like the
freak you
media.
out. Yeah.
yeah. Everybody makes money.
But it's human psychology, really, is
Yeah.
what it is.
I just think it's kind of because the Poltergeist 3 theory we're talking about now, where ghosts can mimic and use their surroundings as instruments and tools to fuck with people. And that's what I'm saying. Could an elemental scratch you mimicking that little lizard thing, thinking that's all funny and shit? Because when you said that and then he was walking out, we both looked at the picture and started laughing, going, that's right where Vicky said she got scratched at by the motherfucking claw that he's.
And by the way, I didn't see it. Where was it? Was it on the floor?
It was right where you said you got scratched at. That's why I'm just asking that. Can it manifest into things? And yes, to answer people's questions, I am definitely getting all. Denny's made me 7 of these pictures, all getting framed, all going to have a wind underneath. I'm talking.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It's real tough, Beckett. What's a twist?
of the third kind.
What am I on the stand here? No, I'm just kidding.
Are they on another planet? And I'd be like, oh, damn, they're talking about this on.
They're in another solar system.
Basically, you are. It's a hybrid situation. You're they're coming here, they're leaving, they're staying, but you get to talk to aliens. They're the way of life now.
I'll do spirits.
Wow, kind of shocked on that, Dennis. Kind of shocked. What do you guys say?
My dog's in heaven. Like that will happen when I die. But if I can talk to aliens right now, like it could actually be of value to society potentially.
Would you be comforted if your grandpa visited you ghost form?
Yeah.
But
100%.
I wasn't done. But he did appear as a half demon. Would that freak you out? But he was still trying to be kind and nice, as like a Vicky says, manifest in a different way. Not a demon, but it looked like it. But he was being kind and gentle. Does it still scare you?